here. Do the usual. Okay, so let's start sitting comfortably and you might sit cross-legged or whatever works for you. Just sit comfortable and letting the spine be long. We'll just go inside. So maybe closing the eyes or just letting them be soft and starting to slow our breath down and lengthen it a little bit. So breathing maybe in through the nose, out through the mouth, or whatever you prefer. And feel free to add a little sound on the exhale. You want to add an ah or an om, sigh. Just whatever wants to come out. Oh. Feeling the sound resonating in our body is a very natural, relaxing sort of medicine. Right? Letting the belly, the shoulders relax, everything. You can take one hand to your low belly, maybe give a little tap on the place right beneath the navel there as we breathe. And bringing our hands up around our heart and tapping around there, thymus, heart area. And then bringing our hands up to our scalp and massaging and sort of letting us getting a little wake up to our head and all those meridians that run through the scalp. And then bringing our fingers to our ears, kind of bringing our vagus nerve on board here. We'll massage, kind of rub and gently pull on the ears. Into all the crevices. And then bringing our fingers right inside there, gently pull down and hold. Taking a couple of breaths. And then letting our arms come out from our shoulders. Let's move our spine a little bit. So reaching forward as we pull our heart back toward our spine, and then bringing our arms back, lifting, kind of squeezing the arms back there, flapping our wings. As we breathe, letting our spine get a little bit of movement here. And then we can just bring our arms alongside us and we'll go ahead and start in butterfly. So you can just bring your feet in front of you in a long-legged butterfly. You might want a pillow underneath your legs like I have, or whatever's comfortable for you, and just come forward over our legs here and relax. Nice way to start, just by gently opening our hip and stretching our sacrum and stretching our spine. We're rounding forward. You might like to massage your feet while you're here a little bit. Give them a little bit of attention. Allowing the legs to totally relax. Totally relax. We bring ourselves into that space in yin where we just yield and surrender to whatever we find happening inside of us, right? Just letting it be and noticing how we're doing, how we feel, what's going on, any sensations, receiving them with a nice, tender appreciation. Our yin practice is such a good time for an opportunity for just really appreciating and paying attention to our body and what's going on, because we slow down so much and we allow and we don't have any judgment about what's happening. Nothing to change, nothing to alter. Just as time to surrender and let go. So let's walk ourselves back up to sitting. And when we come up to sitting, you can just bring your legs straight out in front of you. Maybe give them a little shake. And we'll come into caterpillar. So making sure the pelvis is upright and not tilted back. Otherwise, sit on a cushion if it is. Just bringing ourselves forward over our legs. So forward fold here. Just letting gravity take care of this stretch. Start wherever we are, finding our edge. And then as time goes on, we might find ourselves going a little farther towards our legs. It's a great way to stretch our whole back body, right? All the way from the back of the feet to the top of the head. And of course, we might notice that we start to really relax too. Any forward fold, especially caterpillar, or a forward fold with your legs out from your hips, is a naturally relaxing pose. Such a good stretch for that urinary bladder channel. Quite a large or lengthy channel, the urinary bladder. It's responsible for the fluid regulation of the body. Got a big job. Okay, so we can start to slowly come up from there, taking our time, coming out of a pose so that our connective tissue has a chance to bounce back. Doesn't move so quickly. We'll lean back on our hands and maybe shake the legs out, and you might bend the knees and windshield wiper, whatever feels good to your legs and your hips. And then we'll come into deer pose. So you might want to have a pillow or something handy for under your arms and shoulder, or your arms and chest, I mean. And we'll bring our left foot in front and our right leg folded next to our hip. See if I can get my angle here. And just allow that left leg's a little bit in front of us in a bent position like that. And you can just allow the hips to relax here. So we have that internal rotation of the right hip, external rotation of the left. Just feeling that. And then you can see if your sits bones can go all the way down, and then maybe even move the foot farther away from your hip a little bit and still maintain the sits bones down, if that's a possibility. Everybody's different. Try to get the sits bone down. Of course, we're also torquing the knee, so that's something to be aware of. And then we're going to start to twist back. So just kind of spiraling back on the hands, up on the arms, looking behind us. Quite a nice spiraling motion of the body here. And just breathing. And then you might make your way down to your elbows. Now there's 3 different levels, so you can feel free to be at any of those levels for any length of time. I like to go down gradually and come back up gradually, but you can go all the way down if you want, stay on your elbow for a while, or with your arms straight. And maybe eventually coming down onto the hands stacked under the forehead, where a pillow might be helpful for your shoulders. Especially the left shoulder in this case, you might find that's a little challenged. And if you need to, you can also move your left arm out of the way if that's required, or add more bolstering under your chest. And making sure that we're keeping our breath full and even. Sometimes in a twist, we can find it a little bit more challenging to breathe fully, evenly. Paying attention to that. You can either stay down on your hands longer, or if you feel like you want to begin to unspiral or unwind yourself, you could come up to the elbows. Like I mentioned, it's really a personal preference. You want to stay down all the way or come to another level. Up to my hands for the next little bit of time. A little bit longer. Noticing the difference between how the twist is happening on all those different levels. Noticing the difference. And we'll eventually make our way back around to sitting. Take your time to come to facing forward and just feeling your hips here. Oh, and taking a breath. And then we'll bring this right leg in front. And you might windshield wiper the legs or give them a little shake. And we'll switch sides. So we'll bring our left leg in front and that loose bend away from us a bit. Hold the right leg in front. I say that left leg folds back. You want a pillow under your chest. Bring it over there. And just feeling the hips. That internal rotation, feeling your sits bones on the ground if that's possible. And then maybe that foot can scooch a little bit farther out even. Internal rotation. Not something we do very often, internally rotate our hips like this, but it's good to do the internal, external rotation. Okay, and then we'll start to spiral back. So bringing the right hand behind and behind us, maybe starting up on the hands for a while and taking your time at your own pace to work your way down. At any level that you want to, for as long as you want to. Deer pose is a really especially good stretch for the spleen meridian and the gallbladder. Run up the side of the hip and the side of our rib cage, our chest. The spleen is said to unify the blood, Chinese medicine. So it's responsible for making the white blood cells that protect us, protect our body, and are good for the immune system, for the work of the immune system, as well as it's responsible for taking the prana from the lungs and turning it into nourishment for our body. So it plays a really key role in our nourishment, our digestion. Spleen likes warm food, doesn't particularly like very cold water. far as drinking it, it's good not to drink too cold water, and not to drink while you're eating, not to drink water at the same time as we're eating food. That interrupts the spleen. And of course, the spleen is responsible for the quality of our thoughts. So obsession or too much thinking, overthinking things, can be harmful to the spleen, as well as too many sweets. Eating too many sweets can be a little bit damaging to the spleen as well. Another thing that's really important for the health of our spleen and our spleen channel is that we thoroughly chew our food before swallowing, which I know in this day and age can be a rare thing to do, can be challenging. Again, feel free to be on any of the levels, stay on any of the levels that you want in this deer pose for a little bit longer. Stay all the way down or on the elbows or all the way up on the hands. Be here a little bit longer. Let's make our way back up. If you are laying all the way down on your hands, you might start to make your way slowly back around the arms, put the hands on the ground, and eventually bring ourselves, your time, bringing yourself around to face forward. And just allow the hips to relax for a moment and just allow your breath to, all those organs to unwind inside of our body here. And then we'll bring our left leg out in front. And again, maybe shake the legs out, or you might windshield wiper, lean back on the hands, whatever feels good to your hips and your legs. And we'll come around to Sphinx pose next. So have a pillow or fold up blanket if you want, and we'll come onto our elbows here and bring the elbows under the shoulders. Just maybe rock the body a little bit, relax the pelvis. We might like to lift our head and get a little bit of a stretch in the front of our body, as well as a little compression in the back of the neck. It's good to put a little bit of compression in the back of the neck, looking up sometimes, and just like any other joint in our stretches and our yin practice, compression is very good for sort of invigorating the tendons, all those deeper layers of fascia, stimulating. No different for the neck. Of course, unless you have a neck issue that you need to be careful of. Anytime there's any pain, especially sort of a numbing, a tingling, or a sharp kind of pain, you can lift the feet too if you want, and increase the stretch in the front of the legs and hips. You don't really want any pain. We want to make sure we come out of it if that's happening. Just a little bit of resistance and discomfort, right? There's a difference. So obviously putting that compression into the lumbar area of our body, lumbar spine, is extremely beneficial. Nourishing for the kidneys and the kidney meridians, as well as preventative of bone loss. So let's take a short break in half frog. We can slide our left leg up toward our shoulder, look to the left, relax your head down. You might look to the left if you can. It's comfortable enough for you. Just letting that hip open and relax. Half frog is a nice, easy, passive hip opening pose. If your hips need a little bit of help in that regard, just laying down and going into half frog for a while. And then we'll slide that leg down and bring ourselves back up into Sphinx. If you want, you can have a folded up blanket under the arms. You could lift the feet again or come into seal by straightening our arms, kind of widening them apart a little bit, spreading the fingers. Seal pose. Also put a pillow underneath the pelvis to support you. So a supported seal is particularly good if back extension is a little bit challenging, right? If we can't get ourselves into too much back extension and it's hard on the shoulders and it's too stressful, it's good to just put a pillow right under the pelvis and thigh area. Still get the benefits of that increased compression on our lumbar spine. Obviously increased stress on the shoulders because we're holding ourselves up with our arms. Very yang part of this pose, actually. So we bring our hands closer to our body, we increase it. You can bring your hands farther away from you if you want to decrease it. That compression. Of course, feel free to go in and out of any of the variations as it feels right for your body. Attention to our breath. It's permissible to explore within a pose, within a yin pose. A little bit of exploration. Have to have complete stillness. So if you happen to be in seal, you might want to start making your way down to Sphinx gradually. Come gradually out of that pose. Then we'll do a short half frog on the right side. So slide our right knee up and look to the right, relaxing that hip. Get on our hands. And then we'll slide the right leg down and make our way up onto our hands and knees. So your time, and we'll move the spine A little bit here, so curling the tailbone under and letting your spine round slowly and gently, and then coming into an arch, just moving a little bit smaller motions that can grow them as you go. Spine come back to its normal. And then we'll come to neutral and just circle the hips. So allowing our body to just move however it wants to. Right? Spiral. And the other direction, spiral the other way. And then we'll sit back onto our heels in child's pose. To have the legs together, or if you want to open the knees apart, you want to open the feet a little bit and come more into a tadpole, whatever feels right for your body. If you want to have your arms extended out in front, we get a little stretch under our shoulder area, arms. If it is challenging to sit all the way back to your heels, like it is for me because of my ankle, you might want to make sure that your head is supported either on the mat or on your hands or on some sort of bolster, right, to help with that. So we'll come up from there and back onto our hands and knees. Come into just a short down dog. You want to tuck your toes and press the hips up. Stretch the heels down. And then we'll bring ourselves back onto our knees and bring our right foot forward between our hands for dragons. Or if you need to come onto your back, you can do the supine dragon or half happy baby. Just finding that lunge, right? And you might want to strap if you need to be on your back, or you can use your hands on your feet. Just finding that lunge. One hand on either side of the foot is a good way to start. And you can always change into other versions of the dragon, all the variations, up to high flying dragon, or low flying dragon. Just feeling into that stretch so that we notice how our, I would say, tension to the hip flexors first, right? We pay attention to the hip flexors and then kind of notice how they're doing. Then we might change to explore a little bit different pose, high flying or low flying dragon or winged dragon. Obviously, this pose is largely about the hip flexor and the front of the whole front of our leg and into our little bit into our side body, but flexors, kind of like twisting dragon. That kind of changes the stretch a little bit, as well as adding that twist. Also, twisting dragon really does put quite a bit more pressure and on the, in this case, the left arm and shoulder. Right? So we're, again, that yang part of our pose, a little bit of yang. We go into winged dragon by rolling on the outer part of our right foot and opening up that knee a little bit. Notice how that changes the stretch in the inner groin area, the right leg, up the thigh. Of course, come out of the pose, take a break, and come back in if you need to. Quite an intense pose, so paying attention to our breath. Okay, so let's go ahead and come into a little runner stretch, or if you're on your back, just straighten your right leg. Back on our, lean back and stretch over the right leg if we're on the mat. Foot flexed. And then we'll bring our right knee under us and switch the left foot. You're on the mat, bringing that foot forward. If you're on the back, obviously, changing your leg. So starting with one hand on either side of the foot. Oh, and also making sure our legs are in line with our hips. Our feet are in line with our hips and not with each other. So coming into that lunge, just kind of finding that lunge to begin with, and then go into any variation that you want to, feels right for you. tuning into our hip flexors on the right side. Might be different than the left side. I find dragons to be probably the most vigorous pose in yin. So the breathing can get a little bit labored. Although yin seems, by all appearances, to be an easy thing, it's not necessarily easy. It's simple, but it's not necessarily easy. Never do any, I would say, any poses that are that strenuous or taxing on the body. This might be the most. that requiring of our energy. Okay, so let's go ahead and come into a little runner stretch here. Or straighten the left leg. You're on your back and take a breath. Yes, dragons can be a little intense. And then we're going to come around onto our back. So if you need bolstering, just make sure pillows, whatever, make sure you have them handy. And we'll start by hugging our knees into our chest and relaxing our body for a moment. And then take your legs, bring your legs straight up to the ceiling. And just let the blood flow back toward our heart. You might move your feet a little bit. That feels good to you. And then let's open into a straddle. So maybe holding on to the inside of your legs, or yeah, on your feet, and happy baby, straddle, or whatever kind of a straddle feels good to you. Letting the hips open. And then we're going to bring our legs together, bend the knees, press your right leg on top of your left, knees stacked, and we're going to come into twisted roots. So hold on to your calves or ankles, and shins or ankles, and pull your knees in toward your chest. And then we're going to guide our legs over to the left. So if you need pillows over there for support, bring the legs onto them and let your right arm extend out from the right shoulder. Make sure the shoulder's all the way on the ground, so the legs might need some support. And that arm's a little bit bent, a little bit up. Get that stretch in the front of our shoulder. You might feel in this position, you might feel that stretch on the kind of going up the outer lateral. It's a little bit to the back of that right hip, under the hip and on the side. Twisted roots is kind of like supine. It's kind of like a twisted supine shoelace. So shoelace position of the legs. Take them over to the side to twist. You get shoelace with a twist. We're doing a lot of twisting today, which is, I think, a really good idea for this time of year, because we're coming into spring, and yet we have this quite wintry weather. So I've been hearing a lot of people coughing lately, and there's all those viruses in the air and and in our bodies that we could succumb to if we're not keeping our immune system strong. The world is full of millions and millions of viruses, and most of the time we don't have to succumb to them. But if we weaken ourselves, stress ourselves, then our body weakens, and that's when we get a cold or a flu. That's when the virus gets the better of us. So the twisting is really, really helpful for that immune system support. As well as our digestive system. Good for that too. Yeah. All right, so we'll start to come out from this side. You might just take hold of your right leg with your right hand and lift it up, and then bring your left leg in and hug your knees. Maybe rock your body a little bit, maybe scooch your bolstering over to the other side. Maybe curl into a ball, right? Whatever feels good to you. And then we'll extend our legs, lay down, extend our legs to the ceiling. Cross, bending the legs, crossing the left leg over. Draw those knees into our chest, so holding on wherever you want and just pulling them in. And then guiding our legs over to the right. Might shift your hips if you need to. And then extending our left arm out a little bit up. And making sure that left shoulder's all the way down. You feel this little bit of a stretch going up that left hip, outer under part of our hip. A little bit into the, of course, up the side body, getting into the spleen. The spleen and the stomach are highly benefited in our twists. Spleen, which also includes the pancreas, which of course regulates our blood sugar. And that's also getting helped in this position, right? The pancreas. That little organ that might get forgotten about. Doesn't often get much press, the pancreas. Does a pretty important job though. Okay, so we might come out of that slowly, But take your time. You could stay there a little longer if you want. And just take a little moment to relax on your back. Move your body any way it needs to help you balance, and then come into a comfortable position on the back so you can integrate the movements and everything we've done. Just letting your body relax, breathing fully, and letting that chi circulate all the way through the body, through that network of channels we call the meridians, right? Running through our connective tissue, which yin is so important to nourish that connective tissue. And breathing, giving thanks for our body, giving thanks for our breath, everything that it does for us. And here's a little Tibetan Buddhist prayer that I've taken poetic license to change the word from you to I. May I be at peace. May my heart remain open. May I awaken to the true nature, to the light of my own true nature. May I be healed. May I be a source of healing for all beings. Feel free to continue to lay down and relax or get up slowly. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.